Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock, and as we get set for this weekend's UFC Fight Night card in Florida, we have some news items for you as the UFC card in Saskatoon is quickly growing. A unique main card for UFC 190 is set for Brazil, and one of the UFC's rising champions signs a big endorsement deal. Fresh off her victory over Jessica Penne this past weekend in Germany, UFC strawweight champion Joanna Jędrzejczyk has signed an endorsement deal with Reebok and joins fighters such as Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, Anthony Pettis, and Paige Van Zandt with their individual deals with the brand. At 27 years of age, Jędrzejczyk is 4-0 inside of the UFC and won her championship this past March at UFC 185. The UFC 190 pay-per-view card has been finalized for August 1st in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, with the inclusion of the two Ultimate Fighter Brazil finals. The UFC will put 7 fights on the pay-per-view main card as opposed to the traditional 5. In total, there will be 13 fights scheduled for the show, and it's headlined by Ronda Rousey defending the Women's Bantamweight Championship against Bethe Correia. And the UFC's August 23rd Fight Night card in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan is quickly coming together. The card will be headlined by featherweights Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira, along with Eric Silva taking on Rick Story. They've also added a bantamweight bout between Yves Jabouin and Felipe Aranches, who is cutting down from 145 pounds. Saturday night, we are live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for a 1-hour pre-fight show ahead of the card from Hollywood, Florida. And in Canada, we will be presenting the undercard. 4 fights coming your way from Hollywood, Florida. And the time is ticking down until Hollywood, Florida on Saturday night. I'm with John Ramdeen and Robin Black. Lyoto Machida and Yoel Romero, they are going to headline Saturday's card, which the undercard has just been detonated, and I'm just happy that this middleweight main event has remained intact. Lyoto Machida, Yoel Romero, important stakes here. I feel with Yoel Romero, this is a very important fight for him because a win, it puts him right at that level of a Jacare, just knocking on the doorstep of the next middleweight title fight, I believe.
Yeah, the thing is, this division, there's no easy fights, so let's just say Yoel Romero defeats Lyoto Machida, as you mentioned, then Jacare's waiting, and then Luke Rockhold's waiting.
He's going to Jacare's wedding? Standing up is like an
and Weidman. So right now, if you're anywhere in the top 5, 185 pounds, you're in big trouble because you got nothing but tough fights.
I'm a huge fan of Yoel Romero, man.
Yeah.
When you see this guy shoot a takedown, see how athletic he is, the way he moves, but he's 73 years old, you know, and that's pretty old for a middleweight, for a UFC fighter. But if nobody can beat him, you can be 73, 77, 85. It doesn't matter as long as you keep winning. This one is the tough one. This one is the roadblock because although I think Machida, what is he, 65? He's a little older too, but he's very, very good, and he's hard to figure out. Romero plays that game of trying to shoot the double or land the right hand, and I'm told the way it works in football is you fake the long bomb, which sets up the running play. It's the same basic idea. Very good at it. But Machida is
that's
going to be tough to land on Machida. That's why this fight is so fun from an analytical standpoint.
When you look at Lyoto Machida, though, I think you have to look at the body of his work, and there's, guys.
He does have a nice body. He's got a great body. This guy.
The fact is that he's kind of faced all the type of fighters that you have in mixed martial arts. Okay, well, the guys that shoot power doubles like Rashad Evans, Chris Weidman is one of those type of guys. Then you have brawlers like Rampage Jackson and Dan Henderson, which is very similar to Romero in the style. So I think Lyoto Machida is going to be completely fine. I think he's not going to be stressed, and that's one of his biggest weapons is that he does not seem to get stressed. Even when he faces guys like Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman, it seems they were able to rattle his cage, but he can make the right adjustments and amendments during the fight.
Well with wrestlers we've seen in the past where he will allow them to make the first mistake and just counter, and it's a very smart strategy. Also, the fact that this is a 5-round fight. I mean, Yoel Romero, he packs a lot of weight at 185 pounds, and he's never gone into rounds 4 or 5. So
maybe he can spend a little extra time on the stools. You know,
that's true.
Like if he does, then
hey man, okay. This guy, he's got the head working always in between rounds. If you watch the Tim Kennedy fight, all these problems have been created around this fight, and it results in a 9-fight card. And I've got to say, with every single Saturday reserved for watching fights, I am looking forward to the fact that we're only going to get 9 fights. And I think that it's something that all promotions could learn from. I mean, Bellator, goddamn, they have 150 undercard fights on Spike.com before they go live on their broadcast. I don't know anyone that ever goes to a live event and at the end of it they just say, man, these fights, there weren't enough fights.
Yeah, I know.
And I think that it would be harmful for the bottom end of the roster, who you would have to cut some guys. But man, I'm looking at a 13-fight card in August for the UFC, where they're going to be putting 7 fights on pay-per-view. I don't know if people are just down for watching 7 hours of fights on a given night.
Yeah, Robin and I were talking about the fact that Bellator, it's different than the UFC. Yeah, they're going to try to take whatever talent they can, but the whole purpose is to try to build their own talent. And that's what we've seen from Bellator. And now that Scott Coker's in charge, he has relationships with the guys at Alliance in San Diego, as well as American Kickboxing Academy. So you need those young guys to have fights, and the way you do it is put them on the undercard.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And put it on, whether you put it on Spike.com or Bellator.com.
There is an audience.
Only the crazy people like us need to see all those fights.
Cody's watching.
Yeah, our buddy Cody and Paul Shaughnessy. These guys, they got to be able to figure out who to bet on later. But so there is a small audience for it. But even, never mind all the undercards, never mind the .com fights. Just the UFC and Bellator fights. You throw a few World Series of fighting, some one championship,
KSW.
some KSW, and literally you could spend all day, every day, doing nothing but watch fights. So what's the plan here? Well, there is 5% of the audience who literally does that, and the rest of them, you give them so much fighting that if their brain, in between playing video games and going on BuzzFeed and whatever thousands of things go, I think I'd like to see some fights, you've got some there for them to watch. That's the world we live in.
Now, this next weekend is going to be the first weekend without UFC fights since May the 9th, if I have my dates right. And that, to me, is a big, important gap that you have, because all the focus now is geared towards 189, 2 weeks away. And as well, I don't think you want to be running a card on the 4th of July, but it gives you some breathing room to at least anticipate the big fight. You have a marquee main event, and you have a quality card. And I think that just a 2-week build, as ridiculous as that sounds, that's an eternity now.
It is enough, and I think it's enough for people to, maybe over the last year, it's like, you know what, I've been able to reel it back and not spend money on pay-per-views or set up my plans to go hang out with my friends and watch it at this
hardcore fan, they don't have friends anymore.
Well, that's right.
It's done.
But when it comes to this, that means everybody's going to be spending their money on Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo and Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald. So this is going to do huge numbers.
Yeah, and it lets the momentum not only build, but you can add extra stuff. Every outlet for 2 weeks is going to be talking about this fight. We're a small outlet. We're the best outlet, but we're a small outlet. And we have a Conor McGregor special, 2 different breakdowns, a pre-fight show, 2 episodes of 5 rounds, etc., 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 for 2 straight weeks of nothing but McGregor and Aldo with a little bit of Rory and Robbie thrown in there. So everybody gets everybody excited. You got a week off. That is going to be an insane
However,
show.
we're still going to be talking about Joe Schilling making an appearance in Bellator. So,
all right, that's going to do it for us. We're back Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time for a 1-hour pre-fight show. And then in Canada, we're going to be presenting the undercard from Hollywood, Florida. That kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern time.